Hi, this is Susanna Corbett. Thanks for downloading Stepod and Son.
Hello and welcome to Steptoe and Son, a podcast based at Mews Cottage, 26A, Aldrum Lane, Shepherd's Bush. This is the home of the world's most famous rag and bowmen, or as Harold would say,
Salvage Recovery Operative.
My name's Darren.
And I'm his co-host Si, also known as Two of the Three Comedios podcast that we co-host along with the amazing Tom from One Foot in the Podcast.
We hope you enjoy listening. Please check out the pod on Spotify, Insta, Twitter and all other platforms. Oh, is this Gary?
Gary's here, I think.
Oh yeah, you're all right. I'm just getting
You're
myself
right.
into a space where we can kick off, if that's all right.
Yeah, no worries, Gary. How are you, mate? All good?
Yeah, grand, thanks. Yeah. I'm just gonna insert myself into my 3-year-old's bedroom
Okay.
Right.
for a while. I bet you've never been more relieved to hear the word bedroom after that. I've
Yeah.
just realised.
Wonder where you were going then, Gary.
Yeah.
Not that kind of show.
It's that, yeah.
Think before you speak. Tell everybody.
That's a good entrance, yeah.
No, last time I was saying that because last time I did a podcast in here, she came in and told me off halfway through.
Okay.
You
That's
in
all
my
right.
bed? I was
we
like,
can-
yeah.
Oh,
It's very small. And it
You
should
can edit that out.
I'll leave it in. It's real life.
Yeah. We're a bit more sort of like that as podcasters, and we'd rather leave stuff in and just let it
Definitely.
flow.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things happen, don't they? And it's just like you say, it's life, and
Oh yeah.
it's much more natural. Yeah, we're not particularly overly polished here, are we, Daz? We're just
No, a bit more like Chatterbix.
a bit more like Chatterbix. Yeah, and if you come across Chatterbix, Gary, it's
I have
David
not.
and Joe Wilkinson sort of.
Oh, well, right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's the ultimate anti-podcast, really, because it's just so the two, guys that work in the media, there's just no planning or organization. It's just turn up and see what happens, basically.
Just introduce, obviously, I'm Darren, and this is my co-host and oppo Si.
How you
All right.
doing?
Yeah, welcome to Step On Son.
Indeed.
Yeah, I was chatting I think we were chatting on Blue Sky, weren't we, Gary? So this is how it sort of came about.
Yeah.
We sort of become aware of, the project that you've got going. An incredible project that, me and Si were sort of blown away when we first heard about it.
Yeah,
Oh
fantastic.
yeah. And honestly, guys, you're gonna need to. You got to come up. You got to come up and see.
Yeah,
it.
oh God, we
Well,
just
that
saying,
was one
yeah,
of our
'cause-
questions, actually. Yeah, when
yeah.
only
We're
coming
racing
up.
ahead there. Yeah, no.
All
So
right.
just to introduce, your official title, then, Gary. So you're the Keeper of Archives and Research Collections at the Borthwick Institute, University of York.
That's right. Yeah.
We got that right there.
Yeah. Bang on.
So, how did you get involved with that then? How did the project called Innit Marvellous? How did it sort of start?
Right. Okay. So there's a relatively long trail on this. So back in 2021, we got an email very much out of the blue asking us if we'd be interested in Frankie Howard's archive. Should say the Borthwick Institute is the archives at the University of York. It's been around since 1953, but in the last 20 years, we've also collected archives related to theatre, film, and television. So that means we got collections of Barry Tuck, who obviously is well, involved with everybody. Alan Ayckbourn, Marks and Gran. So there was a little germ of a comedy collection there. And at that point, then we got this email out of the blue saying, "You've got some comedy, some film and TV collections. Would you be interested in Frankie Howard's archive?" So Frankie Howard was from York, and we went. I've still got the email where I just went. It's just capital letters that just says yes to my boss. He went to my boss. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
And through getting that led us to the same person that we worked with on that, Neil Pearson, who you might remember from like Drop the Dead Donkey and stuff like that.
Yeah, that name rang a
Yeah,
bell.
God, yeah, that is.
So Neil's other job is he's a manuscripts dealer and a rare book dealer in his not acting time.
Right.
And he said, I'm in touch with the Galton and Simpson estates. Would you be interested? And so that is how we ended up, as a place up in York, dealing with the archive of Ray and Allen. The point of the whole thing is that it's used for teaching and research by everybody, at the uni, but also by by anyone who just wants to enjoy them right the way through to serious scholars of comedy and entertainment. So the link is really Frankie Howerd, because Frankie Howerd worked with everybody, and Ray Galton and Alan Simpson also worked with a lot of people. But they worked very closely with Frankie Howerd, especially into the 1960s. They worked quite a lot with Frankie. So you get productions like Frankie Howerd Meets the Bee Gees, which is a show a
Oh
show that
wow.
happened, and it was
Wow.
written by Galton and Simpson. So that was really the link that drove us through to where we are now. We also got the archive of the Goonshaw Preservation Society by
Mm.
coincidence. So that's giving us a strength around the writers that were in Associated London Scripts, of which three of the big figures in Associated London Scripts were Ray Galton, Alan Simpson, and Frankie Howerd. So we're starting to develop this strength around writers related to ALS, but also it comes out of this strength that we already have around comedy, because I think we did an analysis around about Frankie Howerd period 2021, and we realised that there were two figures that connected everything that we had. One was Frankie, because Frankie worked with everybody. Frankie worked with people right up until he died. Griff Rhys-Jones and Rory McGrath, Lawrence Marks, and Maurice Grant. Everybody wrote for Frankie. The other people that joined up in the background was Ray and Alan. So that's how that all kind of flowed and came to be.
I think so. The actual archive then. So I'll put the the details online and stuff, because I think I did put on Twitter and that. So it's Galton and Simpson. Would you call it sort of like a crowdfunder?
Yeah, with crowdfund, so because it's big, and this
Yeah.
is one of these ones that's is a purchase. This one, we haven't to fundraise for it. We don't always have to do that, but this is one of those where sometimes you've got to do it.
Yeah.
So the majority of the whole collection we have secured, and we have some more fundraising to do. We've got to do that by October. So the crowdfunder is part of the fundraising
Yeah.
approach. So it's about 3,000 that we're crowdfunding, because we didn't think we could put the whole figure on the general public. So that's that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think last time I checked, I think you're about £2,300 into the £3,000 target. So you're doing really well.
Yeah, we're not doing too bad. We've jumped up a little bit more over the weekend. So that's great. We've had something like 85 donations, which has blown me away. I was ready for it being like a couple of people going, have it, and then just get out of my way. But 85 people is brilliant. It's mostly people chipping in like 10 quid, 10 quid, 20 quid, 30 quid. And that
That's
just
it. Yeah.
shows how many people love it, I think. And that's amazing.
Oh, these are, like I said, I put it on. We've got a YouTube channel as well. And I put it on there, and within about an hour, one of our listeners messaged, and he said, "How can I donate? Can you send me the details for it?" So yeah, it's still, even though Galton and Simpson have sort of passed, it's
Oh,
still
yeah.
definitely, in the public sort of interest. So the archive then, would that be? So are you trying to save it from going to a private auction to keep for the general public?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there's been in the last few years, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been quite a few sales of material, and they are happening. And we're not, a very old university. We're only sort of 60 years old. And so if these things go onto the private market, we'll be outgunned immediately. And the collector community is huge as well. No offense to collectors, they're all they're all living their passion, and that's fantastic. But yeah, there is a risk that some of this could go into private hands. I think the big auction, obviously, that's on people's mind, was the Eric Morecambe one at the start of the year, where prices went bananas, and we were lucky to get a few bits from that auction, but by no means did we get everything that we were hoping to get. So yeah, it's to stop it going into, if it goes into private hands, it may appear at a later point in time. You can't tell, but realistically, at that point, it's gone.
That's it, innit?
Is it
But
the family that sell it then? The family own it at the minute, and
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah,
top
yeah.
off.
The family have it. I mean, it's them that's that want to do this, and that's okay. That's how they want to do it. We've all got needs
Mm.
when something like a parent or a family member passing away happens, and people approach these things differently. This is this. Not too fine a point on it. This is one of the major writing partnerships in 20th century British culture,
Yeah, I bet.
that has shaped our approach to comedy as a nation for the last 50, 60 years, 70 years. So, yeah, it is worth something. You can't deny it.
No, that's it, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. I suppose it's interesting to see in 50 years' time what people will be doing with sort of Ricky Gervais's, archive, I suppose, or something like that. Will it have the same amount of interest, or is that because more digital? Will that be more accessible? I don't know. It's just interesting. This is kind of very much of its time, isn't it?
oh,
Everything's handwritten, I guess, and or typed or whatever you say.
that's it.
Yeah, yeah, it's physical. Yeah, you can hold
Physical.
it. You can hold
Yeah,
it.
which
I
is
think
great,
that's
isn't it?
that's probably why it seems more special, doesn't it? Like the way Galton and Simpson wrote as well, obviously with Steptoe and Son. It just looking back on it, it just feels more special.
Mm.
And like you say, it's a physical media in it rather than sort of something online. It seems less precious in a way, doesn't it? And it's harder to archive.
Well, we can do that. I mean, we
Mm.
can we can. So Lawrence Marks and Maurice Gran were using electronic writing
Oh,
systems
okay.
from like the late 70s. They were really quite early adopters. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
it
Wow.
is it is
Yeah.
pos.
That's good.
It can be
Yeah.
done. I mean, with Ray and Alan, we first of all we've got the object that they did this on. So we've got their typewriter
Mm.
as part of the
Wow.
collection,
Wow.
which
That's
is
amazing.
it's really great. It's a typewriter, right? It's
Wow.
and I'm amazed how often already I've had to explain to people what a typewriter is. You don't forget how
Oh no,
quickly time
no.
rushes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gone, hasn't it now? Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what's quite great about it is, we know the way they worked. I think it was Alan did the typing and Ray kind of paced the room, didn't he, while they were doing it? So it's
Yeah.
Alan's typewriter, and all the letters that they've used most often are clean, and the ones they don't are covered in a layer of tobacco
Yeah, they're
residue.
heavy smokers. Yeah.
Well, it's a
Yeah.
smoky room. They're banging ideas out. You know what it's going to be
Yeah.
like. So they do type. And what I quite like about it is that a lot of stories will exist in several forms. So, you're going to get a first draft, then you're going to get probably a shooting script. For Steptoe, you might also get that script adapted to being on the radio as well, obviously,
Mm.
because we made some for radio. And in one case, at least, we've got a handwritten draft of one long scene. So, you can see how they've worked it. And when you look at the working drafts, you'll see that, if you did with a typewriter, you typed with an X over the
Mm.
bits you wanted to excise and get rid of. And you can see that happening. And it's almost like you can see how they've worked at it and come back at it. So it's a very, very vivid way of working. It's not
Mm.
do the draft, throw it, keep the final version. That not at all.
No. Did you say there was correspondence as well about the American Sanford and Son between, the UK
Yeah.
and America?
Yeah, there is. So, yeah, I've concentrated on the scripts part there as it's just been in my head most, but there's also quite a lot of correspondence and contracts that goes with it. And again, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of those.
Mm.
So yeah, there's a big file that's just marked Steptoe USA, and it's got all the back and forth about how they sold the concept of Steptoe and Son to America. And there are copies of telegrams from I think it's Bud York in America when they go. We're talk basically. There's one that goes, look, we're going to talk to Red Fox. He's a really good actor. We think it'd be great if he did that. And then shortly afterwards, there's another one that says just to confirm, basically confirm Red Fox is a signed on, all black cast
Right.
is confirmed, and you're like, there we go. There's a huge moment there where the world spins slightly. But what I think is interesting is it mentions in the thing about if Red Fox turns it down, we'll keep talking to Cusack and Pleasance.
Ooh,
Cyril
Pleasant.
Cyril Cusack and Donald Pleasance
Donald
Really?
Pleasance.
could be.
He's an English actor, isn't he,
Wow.
though? So
Yeah, I mean, that was the only one that we
Yeah.
know of where they took the English actors with them was
Wow.
was the pilot for Up Pompeii, which we've also got. that they did in America, which is a complete disaster. It
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Mm.
But I just wonder if there's a little road not travelled there with Donald Pleasance in the American
That'd be
Steptoe.
incredible. But that's what I was thinking. It's
Think
interesting
about it.
because Simon myself, and we read books from one point of view about how Stanford and Son came about, and it took years. It took about 6 years, and Galton and Simpson said they went over there to America and spent weeks just sat by a pool waiting for things to happen. So it'd be interesting to see correspondence from their side of things, of how it actually did happen. And
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, all these things you can say. You know what TV's like. I think it
mm,
goes quickly and then slowly and then quickly again,
Mm.
and you do get that. And a lot of the correspondence and contracts is about sorting out the rights as to what they can and can't do, who's getting paid for what. They're really what I've seen from that, especially with Steptoe, less so with Hancock because Hancock's UK and that's it. But with
mm,
Steptoe, they are like, no, we are guarding the rights. We are. It's the business
Right.
of creating a concept and selling it. And of course, you've got the two films as well, so you've got all
yeah.
that too.
Yeah, because I think you very kindly sent me over some pictures of sort of behind the scenes shots that I've never seen before of
Oh wow.
Steptoe rides again. So yeah, the ones you
They're
sent,
brilliant.
I sent them over to you, didn't I, Si? They're really
Yeah,
good.
it just blew away to see, yeah, a little snapshot of history there. It's gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah, they're marked as being continuity snaps, so they're basically just continual photography while they're making it scene by scene in order. I think there's like 2 or 3 photograph boxes, 2 or
Yeah,
3 inches thick of those, plus a load of slides as well. So I think I sent you a color transparency one I'd found of Wilfred Bramble in the bath.
yeah, yeah.
The
In the
rejected
sink.
shots to spoil to let daylight in on magic. I'm afraid he'd say he is wearing underwear.
Oh yeah, thank God. But yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
there's a
know.
couple of
Yeah.
there's a couple of Harry as well where he's sort of pulling faces and you can see they're having fun behind the scenes,
Yeah,
which
they're
is
not
good to
all
see.
shooting shots. There are some where you can see they've just snapped them while they've been sat there,
Mm.
in between shots, which I think is quite nice. It's similar shots for Wilfred Bramble as well.
It's nice to quell some of the rumors as well, that they didn't get on. If you got photos of them laughing and joking on set, that's another chance, isn't it, to sort of put that misconception to bed.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I can't say there's anything that leaps out in anything that I've looked at that suggests they didn't from Ray and Alan's point of view. I mean,
That's
why would you be writing
That's a good
series
point,
for them?
Si. Yeah, that's a good point, Si. If this sort of correspondence is nothing that backs up the horrible rumor that they didn't get on. So
But there's plenty of room for people to go and look at that if they
mm,
want to. They may not find anything, but that's the nature of research.
that's it. Yeah. So how would we sort out a visit then, Gary?
Just drop us a line, come on up.
Yeah.
I think we're in a stage where I think when we hit the funding target and we can confirm, to that point what we definitely have because we'll have done the final bit of purchasing.
Yeah.
We'll be able to get a list of contents up pretty quickly because I've got to say, Ray, especially kept an incredibly good list
Oh,
of
he's
what they had.
meticulous, wasn't he? Yeah.
Oh, he should have done my job. He absolutely would have been brilliant at it. So every file is numbered, right? Nice and clearly and sequentially.
Oh, it's a dream.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
it's
there's an
good.
index by number, and there's also an index by production as well. So that has been my
Wow.
job has been getting that into a spreadsheet, organizing it, and then I did a test today, and it's all imported well, so that can go up pretty quickly, and then you can start
Mm.
discovering it, and then you can just come up and use it. You don't have to have like if you like a good reason to come and do it. You can just
Okay.
come to enjoy it. I'd love that,
Mhm.
So yeah, you can just come up and have a look and have a go through. I think, as you know, for Steptoe, it's because it's slightly later in their writing partnership. It's incredibly well documented in the archive. Stuff at the end is usually more documented than stuff at the start. That's the way these things go. So you've got loads of drafts to go at. You've got thick files of correspondence, press clippings, contracts, bit of the visual material with photographs as well. So there's quite a lot to go at.
Yeah. Did you say there was like cans of film footage as well?
There is. That's for the 1965 American Steptoe.
Yeah,
I forget who's in that now, but that was, you always know when you got a box with film cans in because it weighs about a ton. So there's about 4 full reels in there. There's a couple of reels of Sanford, but again, there's going to be nothing, I don't think, that's going to never have been seen before. It looks like viewing copies to me on 16mm film. But the 65 American Steptoe is 35mm film, so that's
yeah.
very high quality.
One of the guests we had on last year, Gary, was an author called David Clayton,
Hmm.
and he wrote the Wilfred Bramble biography,
Hmm.
You Dirty Old Man. And he said that I think it helped him a lot going back and doing research. He meticulously researched, Wilf Bramble's life as much as he could because he was quite a sort of private man. And he's one of the interviews he did was with Tesla Bars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he had sort of some audio footage that he recorded. I think it was about 2011, 2012, and it got corrupted. But he said he had quite an hour or two's worth of a recording of an interview with her. So yeah, I don't know. Would you know anyone that would sort of help recover that sort of data or?
Depends on what the corruption is, to be honest. Until you know, there are people that can work on that, but it depends if it's how the corruption's happened. Sometimes you can,
Yeah,
but if the actual data's really buggered, then that's
yeah.
not going to come back realistically.
So I think, can you remember? So David said he'd recorded it on I can't remember what
Yeah,
tape it was.
he recorded it on fast play rather than standard play, a bit like an old sort of VHS. But now he can't get it back onto standard play because
Oh,
he
if
has.
it's a physical tape, there'll be people
Yeah,
out there that can do that.
yeah,
Definitely,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. Oh,
yeah,
that's
So
good to know.
we've just done that with Ray and Allen's actually. I mean, it's not Steptoe, it's Hancock, but we
Right.
found a 1967, we think 67, late 60s domestic video tape in there. So it's one of these single reel jobbies that we think
Yeah,
it might have been Ray that did it. And
yeah.
if the title matches the contents, it's one of these missing late in Hancock's career ITV shows. And if they can recover that, then that kind of thing with that tape is going to
nice.
be a
Yeah,
cinch.
yeah.
You have to give me the details of the people you use, Gary.
Oh, well, for that one, it's one guy, it turns out. Whenever you go through any of these digitization companies, they go, "Oh, we don't do that, but we do work with an external partner." And I'm like, "Is
Right.
it West Point TV?" And that, "Oh, yeah, yeah."
Oh, okay.
I think it's one guy with one
Guy does the
recorder.
whole country well.
I'll have to point him in that direction. So yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask you about, is there anything to do with Ray's work with Johnny Spite or Johnny Spate? Because
Yeah, loads.
he did a
Absolutely
sitcom
loads.
which I adore called Spooner's Patch.
Spooners. Yes, there's
Yes.
loads. There's loads
Oh
for
wow,
Spooners
because
patch.
I think that's an absolute gem, and there's the hallmarks of Ray's writing in there. There's also the hallmarks of Johnny's writing in there from Till Death Us Do Part. And I've got the DVD, and there's actually, it says on there, one of the episodes is missing from the archives, but Ray had recorded it, and this is the early 80s, so he kept a video copy, and that's the one that's been put out on DVD, which again just shows, like you say, how far ahead of time they were, that they
Oh
were
yeah.
documenting everything, getting videotapes of as it went out on air to be able to then preserve it.
Oh, there was
So,
episodes of Steps, so one of that was saved purely because he kept them
yeah.
himself.
That's it. Yeah, and I
Mm.
can see how that happened because there are some, I can see how he'd have done that.
Because it's an interesting sitcom because it started out with one actor playing it and then it switched to another actor midway through and it was the same character. And it ran for 3 series in the end. But yeah, I've got a real soft spot for it, but I think it's just been completely forgotten now. But again, it's Ray Galton. This is a
Yeah.
guy who's like you say, pioneered television comedy and he's writing with another pioneer of television comedy and yeah, it's a shame it doesn't get the credit it deserves. But if there's some great stuff in the archive, I'd be fascinated to.
Oh, there's I mean, yeah, please do because we know a
Thank
lot of
you.
people are going to come
Yeah.
and look at the stuff for Hancock, the pre-Hancock stuff, when they're
Yeah.
churning it out for
Mm.
radio. I mean, it's like over 100 files of scripts between the first radio job and Hancock, and that's in about 3 years. So,
Wow.
it's an incredible output. But of course, you've got all the Galton and Simpson playhouses as
Yes.
well, including The Offer, but right the way up until the ones in the 70s. But the latest part of the archive, it's all come out of Ray. It all came out of Ray's house, so it was stored in Ray's cellar.
Right.
And I went to Ray's house. I saw it in the
Oh
cellar.
wow.
Nice.
Oh yeah, I mean these are the days sometimes you can have.
Yeah.
And I went in and it was all there in Ray's cellar. So it includes all the post Galton and Simpson period. So Galton and Spate, Galton and Antrobus, Galton and Smith. I think Roger Smith he worked with, and then when they come back together to do Murder at Oil Drum Lane, it's all there. So it goes right the way through. If you like, the Galton writing partnerships as well as Galton and Simpson.
Do you know what? They're such an approachable sort of family because, funny enough, I was the weekend I went and saw his Cattle Productions are doing a tour of Steptoe and Son live. So they came on the pod last year. It was Dan Lewis and George O'Lowe. And I went and saw them. They were sort of not far from me the other week. So I had a chat with them at the end, and they were saying back in March, the family actually came and watched the show. I think it was the grandchildren and nieces and nephews and what have you. They come and actually watch Steptoe. So they're so open, and they're very approachable. And have you found that as well, Gary?
Totally, absolutely. They've been really nice to work with. They've been very patient. They've this has not been a quick job. These things never are. We started in 2021 working on this. It was sort of September 2021 when I first went down and looked at it in Ray's house, which was amazing. I mean, it was such.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what was that like?
Well, the
Yeah.
house, it was in the grounds of Hampton Court Palace. It was a big house within the boundary, and you went in, and there's quite a famous painting of the two of them that was in the hallway and I kind of had a slight tour around, and the dining room was in this kind of almost like Egyptian style. It was really, really like
Wow.
this is not extravagant, but this is cool. This is really, really impressive. And then, as my job usually entails, you down the back stairs into the cellar, and then there's
The dusty cellar.
how many was there? It might have been 8, 9, maybe 10 filing cabinets full of stuff. And then there were some, boxes and bags of the contracts and correspondence as well.
Can I ask though, in that basement was the beer down there?
The beer.
The beer, the beer this in the background on Steptoe, the stuffed beer.
Oh, the bear. No. Oh,
I
if
was
I'd
gonna
known,
say-
I'd have gone and looked for it because I
We-
wasn't
well,
surprised.
We're on the lookout for it, aren't we?
We've been trying to track it down for about, well, what was it, a year and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
And we thought we traced it to the Museum of Comedy in London, because he's a magician guy. I can't think of his name, but he took a picture on Twitter about 3 years ago and said, "This is the actual beer." And I've sort of sent emails off and been sort of gone on a bit of a journey. We don't think that was the real beer, so we're trying to sort of trace where it is. I mean, it could be in a prop studio in Essex, is one theory. But no, it'd be interesting if you said there was a stuffed beer in the basement.
Not in the basement, there wasn't, or at least not in
No.
any room that I went in.
No.
It's the kind of thing I'd remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The only bear that I can think off the top of my head that I've genuinely seen that was that standy-uppy kind of bear is a place called Lissadell House in Sligo in Ireland.
Oh,
And I remember thinking, oh my God, that's like the bear out of Steptoe when I saw it.
yeah, they're massive things, aren't they? It's just
Huge. Yeah.
huge.
We
But
also
again,
wonder if the skeleton is the same one that's in Rising Damp, don't we? Because
Yeah,
of
Briggs
course.
Bees.
Well, it could be, couldn't it? Yeah.
Curious, you wouldn't doubt with sort of central props department, they just sort of BBC
Yes,
not to be shared or whatever. But
Only thing is, was Rising Down was that ITV?
It was.
yeah, I mean, again, that's the only thing. Yeah, might
So I'm
not.
trying to think. Yeah, if it was BBC, I think it's more likely that they'd use the
I
prop.
have seen things before, a bit slightly off topic, but where they've found Arkwright's till being used in an episode of Doctor Who or something like that. They found very
That's good.
obscure links, even down to the carvings of it and things like that. They've spotted it, so there's some little tidbits to be found if you look hard enough in some of these things.
Honestly, it clues may well be in the archive. It's that kind of
Yeah,
crazy thing,
yeah.
It could, until you look. This is the great thing. People can come at this from all sorts of angles. They
Nice.
absolutely can.
I
No.
think we definitely have to organise a trip, Si.
Yeah.
It's closer
'Cause
to you than me.
that's it. Well, does your university run courses where people can study this then? Is a
They
theatre study?
will, yeah, yeah. One of the hopes is we can get it into our School of Arts and Creative Technologies, because that's a training ground for the people that go out and make
Hmm.
telly and film in the future. It's not a
Right.
film school, but it's very much around the technical side. So
That's
um, you might have seen we've put out a promotional video for the whole thing.
great.
Yeah,
That has been shot by a York student. She's a PhD student. And so what we'd like is the idea that it can be a training ground. You can use
Yeah.
this stuff, you can redo it, you can look at it in different ways. And so there's going to be everything from deep and meaningful studies of the content through to people using it as a springboard to do new things. And that is what you want to see. So yeah, there'll be and then hopefully we can get it into other learning stuff elsewhere. I mean, I am very much I don't really care who does what with it. I just want to see it used. So I'm never going to gatekeep it like that.
That's fantastic to hear, and that's very admirable of you to do that. That's yeah, well, fantastic.
It's great. It's nice stuff to work with as well.
Mm.
It's got a bit of grit in it. There'll be stuff in there that people will have to deal with and look
Mhm.
into, things like those personal relationships. But
Mm.
overall, the intent of it was to give people pleasure, and you can't knock that.
Is there
no,
anything on about the reviews or the critics of Steptoe? Is there any sort of comments on that about how they felt about that or?
There will be, because they kept, I think it might be an Alan more than Ray, but they kept tons of press clippings. They obviously subscribe to a press clippings agency. And again, they're all in files, they're all labeled. So yeah,
Right.
I would, if for the criticism, for the press criticism, if that there is, that will be in those press clippings, because they'll have just said anything with Steptoe and Son, send us it and tell us what paper it's from and the date. And they're all filed as well.
Nice.
that's amazing. Well, I do hope he's successful with it, obviously, Gary, because I think it'd be so much better to keep it in the public sort of access and domain. Like you said, I'm not against, a private collector buying it, and but the worry is they're just going to stick it in their basement somewhere, or you know, hide it out the way, and it's stuff that should be out there because the influence Galton Simpson had, and from our point of view, Steptoe and Frankie Howard, Hancock, but Frankie
Yeah.
Howard, like you say about there's some things that would sort of shock people. I mean, especially with Frankie Howard, I think so the relationship he had with Rory McGrath. I've heard a sort of couple of podcasts,
Oh yeah.
talking about that. So
I mean, there is, and it's one of those things where silences can speak sometimes louder than noise, than words, because there's nothing of that really in Frankie's archive. It's not a personal collection in that way, and his relationship and his sexual identity was had to be secret,
yeah,
because he was, it would ruin his career
Mm.
at some points. So for instance, for the American Up Pompeii, we've got quite a lot about, well, not a lot, but enough about um, how they got over there. So, you've got the things about, oh, please book a flight for me, first class, or stay at this hotel. My partner, well, not my partner, my business partner and manager, Dennis, will be coming with me. We'd like
um,
adjoining rooms. And when he's in America, Dennis gets like an inscribed copy of the script, specially bound for him. So you can see it's different
Yeah. Yeah.
standards. Whereas in the UK, Dennis is his chauffeur or his manager or
hmm,
something like that. Right the way through, you know, pretty much into the 90s. And yeah, the stories of what Frankie got up to are pretty legion. And it can be difficult, and it's something that I think we've got to be as open as we can about. One thing I
Mm.
found with Frankie as well is little surprises. So we've got some kind of fan and personal correspondence with Frankie, and I found a set of correspondence that he had with quite a young a lady. I think our girl, she was in her like late teens, so like 18, 19, and she'd had a kid, and she's, for some reason, she wrote to Frankie saying, I really like what you do, you seem very approachable, and then pours out this story to her about how she's got a kid and the dad is a druggie, or a hippie, and he's gone off and left her. And Frankie kind of keeps up some conversation with her for quite a long time, and he sends her little bits of money, and he says, "Well, look, I don't know what to buy a baby, but here's some money." So you can get different
Wow.
lights on this through the stuff,
Definitely.
but you've got to keep the whole context, because that's
Mm.
not a close relationship in the way that you might think. And there'll be that in Ray and Allen's. I am absolutely sure. It's just one of those bits we've not had as much chance to explore yet, is what's in the correspondence and contracts.
Yeah, it was a bit like with Wilf Bramble and his what did he? I think he called it his valet, didn't he? The younger
Valet,
gentleman
yes.
he was with.
Yeah.
But obviously he was gay at a time when it was illegal.
Yeah.
It was the scandal with him. Whatever it was, it was never really confirmed. But yeah, it'd be interesting if that's in there, because I don't think I think I've only ever seen one interview with Galton and Simpson. They're sort of talking about it, and they were a bit bemused by Wilf Bramble's arrest, and they were sort of saying, no, he'd had a few gins and smiled at a young man, and he happened to be an undercover police officer. So it'd be interesting to see if that was in there, as well as all the positive, happy stuff. Like you said, there might be stuff in there that makes people think.
Well,
Yeah.
they say it's part of the Steptoe story, isn't it? And
Mm.
that's very much something that, yeah, kind of Wilf had to deal with, like you say, in very different times. So yeah, it'd be
Mm.
interesting to see like you say, what they made of it at the time.
Mm.
And it may be that there's some kind of silence that looks pretty obvious, because we've got some of a bit later. They're into the 70s, but we've got Ray and Alan's appointment diaries, for instance, a big A4, page a day things. You might find that something doesn't happen on a certain day, and that could be the point where that happens. So you've got to come at these things with quite an
Yeah.
open mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if you had time as well, Gary. I asked you to come up with 3 of your top comedy moments. And it
Oh,
could be
no.
from anything. It's not restricted to Steptoe.
Well, I'm gonna I'm gonna do one non-Galton and Simpson. I feel like I need to do one of each out of Hancock and Steptoe. I think I got to play it fair, or I'll get letters. Let's face it, for favoritism.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I think obviously we'll start with the non-Hancock, with the Galton and Simpson one. I'm gonna say it's got to be the deadly attachment in Dad's Army.
I tell you, Wilson, they're a nation of automatons, led by a lunatic who looks like Charlie Chaplin.
How dare you compare our glorious leader with that non-Aryan clown?
Oh, look here.
I am making notes, Captain. And your name will go on the list. And when we win the war, you will be brought to account.
You write what you like. You're not going to win this war.
Oh, yes, we are.
Oh, no, you're not.
Oh, yes, we are.
Whistle while you work. Hitler is at work. He's half army, so's his army. Whistle while you...
Your name will also go on the list. What is it?
Don't tell him, Pike.
Pike.
I think
Brilliant.
that
Choice.
is one of the tightest written 30 minutes of material you'll ever see. It
With,
is
Philip Maddock.
Philip Maddock as the
Yeah.
German U-boat captain. It's just everything. It's just so tightly written. It's that nice thing of you got a cast firing on all cylinders. They know what they're doing. They know how to do it. You've got 2 writers that are in. You've just got that nice convergence where it's like this is the one where it all just comes together.
Yeah.
And it's just a perfect 30 minutes. Anyone can watch it. I've watched it with my 10-year-old. She thinks it's funny. You don't need to need a deep understanding of the Second World War to get the joke. And then the crescendo of I think what's quite nice, you've got multiple crescendos in it. You've got multiple points in it. Because yes, you've got "Don't Tell Him, Pike," which is almost a throwaway line. It's not like the episode's built around it.
No, definitely not.
What is your name?
Yeah. Don't tell him, Pike. Pike.
It's brilliant. Yeah, it's just it's funny no matter how many times you've seen it. And
and you just hear it must have been great for them in the studio, because you just get that woof off the audience as that one lands. Also, just a side note, like the German is right as well when he's talking about getting the fish and chips. If you listen to it, because my wife speaks and understands German really well, So when he lies on the floor, the German U-boat captain, and he's saying something in German beforehand, he says to the sailors, "I'm going to lie on the floor and pretend to be ill."
Oh
So
wow.
even that was right, was it?
Nice. Even
Yeah.
they went to the trouble of getting that right. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, yeah. I'm going to lie down, pretend to be ill. When I do that, basically jump them. So it's
Yeah.
all there.
That's brilliantly little plant,
That's-
isn't it? Just there.
And it
That's
has
a-
one of
yeah.
the filthiest jokes they ever did in it, which is where Jonesy says they could put as many as they like down my trousers and they will not make me crack.
Yeah.
Which is just...
Yeah. And they go, yeah, man, he goes, you see what sort of men this country breeds? Rather
Oh, the
silly
stupid
ones.
ones.
Yeah. But now, have you...
But then again, Philip Maddock it's like Michael
Yeah.
Caine in The Muppets, right? He's not
Yeah.
playing this as a silly part.
No,
a
he's taking it
genuine
seriously.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Philip Maddock. He was a brilliant
officer.
actor.
Oh.
Philip Maddock. Yeah, incredible actor.
And a polyglot as well. Apparently he was he translated Winnie the Pooh into Latin or something like
Oh
that.
God, yeah. Well, he would have been fluent Welsh.
Yeah.
So yeah, he would have been sort of bilingual anyway. But yeah, the brilliant episode. Have you been to the Thetford Museum?
I haven't. Me and a friend have had plans to do this.
If you get a chance, go, because we went in, was it March? Sorry,
early April.
Oh.
We took a trip there with our other podding
with
pal.
Tom from So
I want to do it, but I kind of want to do it. I want to do it at the right time of year. I want that late summer vibe that they always had, because that's when they filmed there. You
Yeah, that's right.
Heavy
yeah, it
summer
always
light.
seemed to be summer, didn't it, with Dad's
Yeah.
Army? It always seemed like the
Always
hazy,
summer.
summery afternoon.
Pulling that orange light off the flint, and also I kind of half want to do it in costume. I mean, I'm halfway to Arthur Lowe already. So
Oh, you do cosplayer. Well, they the day we went, it was a guy dressed as Jack Jones, and there was Mr. Godfrey, and they were brilliant, weren't they, Si?
Well, they had the original van. And they were trying to
Original van, Jack Jones the butcher, the original van.
which is over 100 years old now, because it was 20 years old, or no, 50 years old or so when they used it originally. So yeah, we were very lucky as well. We managed to find the exact spot where Jones, where it all falls apart, where the bomb is found out not to be a bomb. But when they're marching past,
yes, the string down his trousers.
The house is still there.
They're all in Thetford within walking distance.
Took us a little while. We had to go over the river and all sorts, but we were a lot of help with Google, because someone had done all their groundwork, but you still have to sort of spot where you are in that. But it was just great standing where a bit of history took place.
That's incredible, isn't it? And also, it's got the line with the Mannering line of "They'll tell by the tone of my voice I'm in charge."
Yeah, it's brilliant. I like it's such a subtle. It's everything you need to know about Mannering, isn't it? But then after that, he says, "Wilson, you better come with me."
You better come with me. Yeah.
It's like...
But also, the whole thing ends on a really good punchline. With maybe you'll understand why we don't keep them primed. You think. Bang, and to end it on a joke as well, and get the big line. There's enough gags in there, big woomph gags, that any series would have over 4 or 5 episodes and be pretty proud of that. I mean, it's just high octane.
Even like Mr. Godfrey dozes off, doesn't he? And he goes, dozed off regarding a bunch of cutthroats. And he doze off, and he goes, watch him like a hawk.
Like a hawk. And then a bit with where Jonesy fires the machine gun into the ceiling as well.
I love it, yeah. Get back.
But with the prop guys ready to drop some stuff down as well. It's so well done. You could if you were going to put something, I think, in resin and say, what is it? What is the English psyche? I say particularly English. I know you've got Scotland in there as well. Fraser. But that is what it is. Tell from the tone of my voice I'm in charge. It's all there. So I'll say the first one.
If I say you'll eat soggy chips, you'll eat soggy chips. So...
I want mine crisp and light brown.
We're also very lucky that James Beck was still around, because he died not long after that episode was done.
Oh yeah, well that's another Galton and Simpson
lucky.
connection, isn't it? Because he was doing him and Arthur Lowe were filming Bun Clark with an E.
Were they?
Yeah, of which I've done a little bit of digging around on that, because it did fascinate me. Because also, we've got the script. I've paired it up with Ray's diaries and the production paperwork. So I've been able to put together a bit of a timeline of what happens when. It's shot. I am pretty sure it is shot. Right, they have a studio booked. It's TC6 at TV Centre, and it's in May '73. And James Beck doesn't die until the August, and it's quite quick, isn't it? It's quite a surprise.
they
So
were still filming. They were still doing they'd done the location stuff, but the studio stuff hadn't been finished. So yeah, it was
And he kept it quite well hidden, I think, didn't he? Because I've seen an interview with the vicar, um, and,
Williams. Yeah.
yeah, he said they didn't know anything about it until one episode where they involved them taking their trousers off, and James Beck, his legs were purple, and they
oh
realised it's obviously from the blood circulation. They realised he had a bit of a problem then. So
yeah,
I think he did keep it quite, whether he was like, Walker in real life, quite jovial and, keep the
Yeah,
morale up. But yeah, it's sad. And it definitely lost some of it when he passed away, didn't it, Dad's Army?
without a doubt.
I,
Yeah.
I will go in and back though for Talfrin Thomas as Mr. Cheeseman. I think he was
Oh,
unfairly
nice.
I'm right
maligned.
behind you, boy.
Yes, indeed. Yeah,
Mr.
it's,
Cheeseman.
I mean,
I'm with you all the way.
that's it, Captain
I mean,
Manwaring. Yeah.
man of action.
Man of
Um,
action.
so yeah, I would say that's my first one. I think if we head towards that, towards
Great
Steptoe,
choice.
the second one I'll go with is the blood donor.
I've just taken a sample to test.
A sample? How much do you want then?
Well, a pint, of course.
A pint? Have you gone raving mad? You must be joking.
A pint is a perfectly normal quantity to take.
You don't seriously expect me to believe that? I mean, I came in here in all good faith to help me country. I don't mind giving a reasonable amount, but a pint? That's very nearly an armful. I don't mind that much, but I'm not having it up to here. Sorry, I'm not walking around with an empty arm for anybody. And after all, a joke's a joke and all that.
Tony Hancock.
Yeah, great.
Right, that again. I mean, it's weird because it is both actor and writers. Again, peak of their powers. They know it inside out. Obviously, we know that it's all unraveling a bit for Tony Hancock because there's this whole thing that he's reading it off boards, and it's not until someone tells you that you realise that he's looking off a lot. But yeah, I don't know if you know that because he the week before he was doing the Bowmans, which is in that last series of Hancock. I think Hancock's half hour when it's just called Hancock, and he's just him now. He's got rid of everyone else. But he was in a car accident straight after. His head went through the windscreen, so he was concussed and really, quite badly hurt. But he still went on and did the blood donor the week after. And because he'd had this concussion, he wasn't able to learn his lines, so he's reading it off boards all the way through.
Oh,
so
right,
when you watch it now, you'll see his eyes going to the left or the right. But because he's that kind of character, you just think it's that sort of incredulity in his face. You don't spot it. But that is it is beat for beat perfect, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't again ends on a gag, ends on a really good joke.
And we got a killer line.
Oh, again, you can hear the audience go bang at that. What's interesting with the blood donors when you look at the original drafts, the first drafts that they did, Ray and Allen, there's a lot of rewriting. They do keep going at stuff, and one thing that I got was that innate comic ability to get a word that's funnier. So when he says, "Oh, I'll go do something else. I'm not doing that. I think he says I'll be a traffic warden." Whereas in the original, it's I'll join the civil defence. And you can see they've gone back and gone, no, traffic warden's funnier somehow, and redone it. But a pint that's nearly an armful is word perfect from the go. They know that bit. They know that's going to work, and that's dead on. Other bits are retooled a bit, but that they know is where they're going with it.
It's the rhythm, isn't it? That's very nearly an armful. It's like the rhythm of the.
Very is inserted actually later.
Oh, okay.
The pint that's nearly an armful. Very nearly needs
an
to. It's that talent.
Adds a bit more to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Definitely.
And if you ask them to deconstruct it, I bet if they'd sit there and go, well, it just is. I kind of get what they mean there. But someone would say how that rhythm is somehow funnier, but it just is funnier. Let's face it.
Just is, yeah. It's like certain names. They say in sitcoms, certain names. I think if it's beginning with Q or K, they're supposed to be just funnier.
Yeah.
We don't really know why.
Well, it's like that in a blood donor. I saw it was chalked on the wall on the Pelham Road. Why is Pelham Road by the laundry funny? It just is. They know.
Yeah, like Oil Drum Lane. Why is it so Steptoe?
Yeah. But it worked, right? Yeah.
Oil Drum Lane. Yeah.
Why is East Cheam a really pathetic sounding part of London
He's
somehow.
cheap, yeah.
It's the East, isn't it, that does it? It's
Yeah.
it's that. So I'm going to say, yeah, Hancock is for me is the blood donor, and if we go towards Steptoe, I'm slightly torn. I think I want to put in an honourable mention for the end for the offer for the first one, right?
Excellent.
Especially the last 5 minutes, which
Mhm.
I think is one of the bravest things that had happened on telly till that point, which is let's stop being funny and make something real. You know, the bit where he's trying to get away and, Harry H. Corbett breaks down and Wilfred Bramble, he comes out and puts his arm round him and very fatherly like and takes him back in like he's a kid. I'm like, oh, yeah. What I like about it is when you watch it, the audience don't know what to do, right? They
No.
don't know if they should be laughing. They're kind of giggling almost nervously. And I think that shows that something landed there. Suddenly to go, you know what? Let's just not be funny for a bit. Let's just make this real.
Yeah, Joe, so much respect for picking that one because that we talked about this before when we first reviewed The
Yeah.
Offer. It's that bit that I think is so influential for comedy, for everything, because it, like you said, obviously they picked two actors rather than comedic, or comedy actors, but the choice that he actually cries, that I've got to get away and Harry Corbett, and you could see like Wilf is a bit like he's actually crying. Yeah, I'm gonna have to, go off script a bit and put my arm around him, and he's like you said, it's beyond comedy, isn't it? It's the frustration, and he's crying.
And it's the way the applause very gently comes in. You know what I mean? It's almost like the
Yeah,
credits start rolling. They go, better applaud now. This is, and that's really brave. I mean, they could have turned around and gone, get lost. You're not doing
because
this on
yeah, done
telly.
a gag and ended it,
Well,
and
that's it. They're kind
it's
of
the
used to
pilot,
a comedy show being a comedy show, and it's laugh out loud, and it ends on a punchline, and yeah. But to do that, and we've seen it, haven't we? We've said before that we think there's a lot of similarities between Steptoe and Fools and Horses, and Fools and Horses also one of the greats because it kind of brought in the drama, it brought in the sadness, it brought in loss, and the frustrations of every person. Instead of making everything a joke, it dared to go somewhere different. And yeah, but like you say, Steptoe, I think, really started all that, and we wouldn't have comedies like we have now if they hadn't done
It
that.
just moves it up a notch, doesn't it? It's
Yeah.
he's great. I obviously love comedies that just gags, gags, gags. But when there's a background story and it's well acted, and there's a sad bit, it just steps it up that notch.
But
Totally. And you see that, I mean, this is why one of the reasons I've always gone out and battered for the Galton and Simpson archive is things like, especially like the offer there, even though people don't know it, does set the mold. Probably till now, the British sitcom, this has been one of my arguments, is that the British sitcom as conceived by as realized by Galton and Simpson,
yeah,
is horrible people in a horrible place being horrible to each other.
yeah,
And right,
Yeah.
and that's the difference between this and American sitcom, which is nice people in quite a nice place being witty. Right,
Yeah,
that's different.
definitely the wisecracking sort of
Yeah.
winner in America. And America's they got to have a winner, and they as the main character until later on. I suppose like 2000s onwards. But like Bilko. Bilko,
Yeah.
he's like wisecracking, always wins, no matter what.
Yeah.
Whereas, like I said, this country we're more sort of like, the Brents, like Faulty Towers, Basil Fawlty. We find that funnier.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's horrible people, really. I mean, would you like to spend
Richie and
time?
Eddie in Bottom,
Well,
that's
I think
Yeah.
even got oh no, Eddie Ed Edmondson said that Bottom is just Hancock with ultraviolence. You're
yeah,
not far off, actually. It's Sid
Yeah.
James and Tony Hancock in a flat. It's
it is. Yeah,
just
I mean,
walloping each other.
I think he said in the interview that he did for the Bottom documentary, he said we don't know how Galton and Simpson didn't sue us.
Yeah, now the scales fall from my eyes. I'm like Sid James and Tony Hancock
Yeah.
there with a
Yeah,
frying
Yeah.
pan. Still funny, still funny.
yeah.
So yeah, I think that moment in the offer is, especially at last 5 minutes, I'm gonna land on the Desperate Hours because I
Yeah.
think that again is great cast. Leonard Rossiter not doing Rigsby, I think is always nice to see. And just, I mean, I know it's, you don't have to, you don't have to be a genius to go, oh, very similar, aren't they? You know, in terms of that. But just the themes under it of being trapped and stuck and being stuck in prison is the same as being stuck with him, and the generational bit between the older fella, I forget his name now, and Wilfred Bramble, about how, you know, he'll eat any food because he grew up in the Depression and young'uns don't know it. And then the way it ends, I think that, I mean, and again, social realist commentary, they're poor, they can't put the heating on, they're freezing. You know, it's really real as well.
Yeah, like you said, the way it ends as well, it doesn't end with a gag.
No,
You know, it ends with, I think Harold says, "Oh, you know, we'll get through it," or something like that, and you know, we always do, sort of thing.
yeah,
But yeah, but another, you couldn't pick a better episode, I don't think, because the Desperate Hours me and Si both love.
yeah.
Yeah, we're big Len Rossiter fans, aren't we? And
Mm.
yeah, just having him cross over with Harry, and as we said before, you know, Harry raises his game because he knows he's up
Yeah,
against the heavyweight of acting here. You know, Reggie Perrin and yeah, and Rigsby. So
and you've
yeah,
got the, you know, the ultimate test of any writing, I think, is if it's in one room, it's just those actors and the script.
Yeah.
It's not multiple
There's
different rooms or props. You know, it's just them in
Oh,
one room.
there's not a place to hide. And again, Leonard Rossiter's not is playing this as a genuine escaped prisoner.
yeah,
Right? He's not in for big yucks. He's menacing
no,
in his own way. When he threatens he's going to do Albert in,
yeah.
you know, you're like, he bloody will actually.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Very
would.
much so. And it's great as well. We've said before that these episodes, series 7 of Steptoe, it's the second to last series, and arguably a lot of series tend to be dying out by then. I think Benidorm, you know, even Fools and Horses, the later episodes. But this was a stellar run. Series
Yeah.
7 was absolutely hit after hit after hit. And yeah, we the way we've done our pod is we've picked 2 episodes, haven't we, for each series? We had to get someone else to pick series 7 for us because we genuinely
Mm.
couldn't decide between,
Oh,
you know,
it was
Man
a
of
Nightmare
Memory,
Series 7
Star
because
is Born. Yeah,
yeah,
there's so much quality in every episode there. It's
every episode I think we had about 9.5 out of 10 at least. It was just
easily, yeah,
yeah, but
which is
yeah, it was
fantastic.
still
So it's testament to Ray and Alan that, you know, 10 years into writing Septo, they were still churning out such quality.
They have that break though, don't they, in the middle
They do.
between the two. So I
five
feel like,
5 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, it's a bit of a reset, I guess.
but
Yeah.
they came back, didn't they? They returned with Death in the Family. You know, with the
Yeah.
horse dies, which is, you know, it's a brave way to come back, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah,
Say
come back on a somber note.
one thing I'm not so just quickly in the archive with Steptoe is that we've got it's a very small thing. It's an exercise book. It's a proper school exercise book, and I think it must have been Ray's. And in it, that's the one where we've got some handwritten stuff. So there's one where they're going to the battlefields in France and they're on a
Oh,
plane.
they go back to
Yeah.
Albert wanted to retrace his, you know,
That's
what he did
it.
during the First World War.
So the scene on the
Pilgrim's
plane,
Progress.
Pilgrim's Progress, that's it. Yeah.
there we go. So the bit on the plane though is that Ray has handwritten that, and it looks like he must have just really quickly wanted to get it down.
Oh, right,
So
it's with
that's it.
Frank Thornton that bit as well.
That's it. And I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't think Frank Thornton's in it. That character's in it in that first go. And in
Right.
that first go, Albert comes out of the plane toilet in his full uniform, which I don't think he is in the final final episode. So there's that. But also tucked in that notebook is just the 2 sides of A4 where it looks like that Ray and Alan have been jotting down almost set piece ideas. So, I mean, that's one thing I'd love you to look at,
Oh,
because you might pick out
Oh, yeah.
if they happened or they didn't.
that's one of the questions I had for you is there anything that's unseen in Steptoe that was just cut? And that was a treasure trove, isn't it? You know, that's
Oh,
Oh, what
possibly.
would you cut? That's,
Well, they're not.
Like,
They're
wow.
just like it just gave me an idea of how they worked.
Yeah.
So there's one that's like Harold has stretched a tarpaulin across the yard and he's using it as a swimming pool. The horse kicks a hole in it and he falls through it.
right, okay.
So
Again, the fact your faces are like means that obviously that's an idea, but you can get
Yeah.
the idea that they'll retool it. They'll
Yeah.
come back. So the one I'll come back to, I think I can talk about this. We've got a production company who are interested, but it's the 73 Christmas Night with the Star. No, Christmas Night with the Stars. You know, there's 2
Yeah.
of them, isn't there?
Yep.
Yeah.
There was going to be a third.
Oh.
What, really?
Yeah. it becomes, in the end, the party.
Right. Yes.
Right, okay.
So
we did
when
review this, didn't we? Sorry, the party.
did you find that the party takes a handbrake turn about a quarter of the way through?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, changes.
That's because the second half of it is Christmas Night with the Stars.
Right, okay.
It's different. It is different.
It's
It's
going to
not.
go away,
It's not
isn't
the
it?
same.
Yeah.
But the whole thing with them trying to put a party on and the ending of them being that they've got chicken pox.
Yes.
Yeah, because we always wondered with that. It just felt different. So it wasn't smooth.
So it isn't. It's like I can't go away. I'll do a party instead.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel jarring.
No, it works.
No.
Now you said that, yeah.
But yeah, there's the Christmas night, the 2 Christmas nights with the Stars. That is in the same folder. I think it's dated something like 1970. So like either a third one or I forget when they did them, but it's there, and they've held on to that for maybe 6-7 years or whatever, and gone, no, we can come back on that, and
nice.
Never waste a good idea.
No, that's it. Always file it away. You're going to come back to it. Yeah, brilliant.
Oh God, I think we could spend hours at this side.
Yeah, this is sounding exciting. Yeah, exciting. Yeah,
come up and do a podcast from the archives.
We'll cover do a live pod. Yeah,
you can do it. Do it. That'd be great.
That'd be amazing.
We've got a podcast studio, or just.
I was going to say you do one yourself, don't you, Gary? Is it the curator?
Curator and keeper. Yeah, we do that. Right little media empire now, but it's just this is good. This is what we should be doing. It's getting out and appearing in places and talking about the stuff is part of the job.
Yeah, well, I mean, we did it. We previously did a podcast called The Three Caminos with our other mate Tom, and we've done that. We've gone, like I said, we did the Dad's Army tour, we did the One Foot in the Grave filming locations tour, and it's incredible. Like when you go to the places where it's filmed, and it's difficult with Steptoe. Bristol, Only Fools and Horses, yeah. Like I said, the difficulty with Steptoe is obviously it was studio based, and most of Shepherd's Bush, London, it's been redeveloped 50 times since the 60s, and it's worth a lot more than it was. But Steptoe's yard would be millions now, wouldn't it be?
Oh, they're sold up by now, definitely.
But no, it's the most fun that you can have is when you get to a site and find where they filmed it, or like that's why the archive, I think, is so. As soon as I saw it, I thought, oh, we've got to get this guy Gary on the pod.
Love it. And don't forget the other, I forgot to say the other York link as well that comes to Galton and Simpson is that York Theatre Royal is where Murder at Oil Drum Lane premieres.
Yeah.
Wow. Is there much about that in there?
Tons. Absolutely tons. Any archive is realistically an inverse pyramid. There's not as much at the start, but the later stuff, you do tend to keep more stuff because that's the way you are, right? You've got more stuff from your recent life than your early life. So there's a lot for Murder at Eldrum Lane. There'll be every single concept and idea for that will be in the archive somewhere.
See, it's quite like mythical in a way, that one, because I found online like a program of it, the original theatre show, but I think a lot of people were a bit funny about it because it's basically, if I remember right, so Harold murdered Albert.
Yeah, in a fit of rage, and then
Albert comes back to haunt him.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are saying, well, he'd never have done that. I mean, he threatened to, but he wouldn't have.
Again, it's written by the guys that wrote it.
Yeah,
exactly. Good point.
When it comes down to what would they do, that's one of the guys that said what they did.
The experts.
So,
yeah,
that's true. Our pal Tom, he's seen it, didn't he? He saw it. So
he did, yeah.
Saw it, and he's a Steptoe fan, but yeah, he was so jealous that he got to see that. It's just one of those things.
I think it's that he kills him by accident. I think he throws something at a door and he's behind it. I think is the
that makes sense.
Yeah, he's not. It's not that bleak.
No, I was going to say that. Mind you, Steptoe, was bleak, wasn't it? It was never. It wouldn't feel strange if that did happen, but no, yeah. So, when can we come out, Gary?
Name your day. It's fine. Do it. It's a pleasure. It really is, and this is what we want. There's a whole span of people from, big highbrow academics that are studying the meaning behind the text and how television was produced and created. Through to experts like yourself who will I learn all the time talking to people. I learn all the time talking to people using archives because I don't know everything. I know a little about a lot of things, and it's kind of sketchy, really.
Yeah.
But that's my job. That's what I've got to do. So I learn a lot every time someone comes and uses it. And if you guys go, "Oh, that's interesting,"
Yeah.
then it's interesting. We're crossing the stream slightly. We had some of the guys from the Tony Hancock Appreciation Society in recently, and it was really interesting. It was like showing them stuff, and they go, "Yeah, we know about that, we know about that," and then you get the one thing where they go, "What?" And you realize that these guys know this inside out, and this has changed their world a little bit. So I think it was the middle. So Ray and Alan wrote three film scripts for Tony Hancock at the end, when they broke up. Two of them are known about. So there's The Brothers, which is based on a French film, and there's The Day Off that eventually became a stage production. The one in the middle is called Winter in the Sun or The Cruise. It's Tony Hancock on a Mediterranean cruise, everyone. You can see where this is going.
Yeah.
And they're sat there going, "This is great. Why did he turn this down? This is perfect for him." And we've also managed to digitize a couple of acetate disc records in there. There is the music for a never produced musical that would have starred Tony Hancock called Noah. That Galton and Simpson wrote the book, and Leslie Bricusse, who wrote Goldfinger and Doctor Dolittle, the whole musical, did the music. And it was never performed, and we've got it. It's not Tony Hancock singing it. I'm going to say thankfully, because I think the original idea is that it was going to be for Harry Seacombe. So the music is very Seacombe, but
Yeah.
Hancock reckoned he could do it. And also Leslie Bricusse went, "You've written a part for Tony Hancock here, not Harry Seacombe." So it nearly happened. And there's one song in there that I am convinced is a unused Bond theme for Goldfinger.
Really?
Nice.
Yep, it's got the Bond bass line melody.
Yeah.
No, da,
Yeah,
da, da, da. That it's got that through it. It's called "There's a Storm Coming," and it uses the word gold really heavily. And I'm like, that's
yeah.
Goldfinger. Like that's another idea that he's come
Wow.
back to. Like Ray and Alan with Steptoe, come back to a good idea.
Wow.
It's got to be. We're big Bond fans as well, and we say.
Oh, that's yeah.
Well,
Project, though, this
on
is-
listening to it, the guys from the Hancock Appreciation Society, we looked around and we went, that could be Matt Monro singing it.
Yes.
Because I never realised that Tony Hancock and Matt Monro were great friends. I never knew that.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were like really good
link.
buddies. So it would make sense. I'm like, it could be Matt Monro singing an unused Bond theme. Or it might not. This is the joy of the ideas and the research.
That's it. Yeah. What's the next stage, Gary? What have you got planned to help promote the?
Well, the main thing at the minute, up for this middle part of the year, is making sure we hit the funding target. I think that's kind of the job at the minute, and it's going well. We've got a lot of support. If anyone knows anybody who wants to throw in either large or small monies at this, then do. You are helping. It's a permanent investment. You get your name on the catalogue as well, but you are doing something that is a permanent thing. It will never go anywhere. It will never go away. If you do that, that's what you're helping to do. Get the script catalogue up as soon as we can. After that, then start getting into the contracts and correspondence. That won't be a very long job because, again, it's so well kept. And then there's a third part at the end that's really kind of unexplored stuff. And we don't know what's in that really yet. We've got an idea, but we don't know for certain. So it's getting that catalogued and up and out there. And then we've got to keep pushing for the fundraising because we want to do internships, we want to do conferences, we want to do an exhibition, we want to make this all come to life and dance and do things and excite people of all kinds, levels, and whatevers. We don't want this just sat on a shelf being there. We want it used, so we'll be doing activities to make that happen. Certainly we'll be doing stuff with student groups as well, interns,
good,
getting young
yeah.
people working on it. So the brilliant Aisha Al Falsi, who's done the video for us, she's in her early 20s. She's from Dubai, so she never come across this material before, and she just ran at it and created this lovely video. And we want to see more of that kind of thing as well.
Yeah. Where can we find a video, Gary? Is it And
It is on YouTube, and I've linked it many times through socials in the last day or so. So
well done. So how can we? Are you on Blue Sky? Is
yeah,
Gary
if
Brannan?
you yeah, it's on there. You can see it through the funding page as well. It's linked through that.
Brilliant. Yeah, we'll have to get promoting, Si.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
fantastic.
I know times are hard. I know times are really tight, and I get that people don't have that disposable income. Seriously, anything you give is welcome, and good wishes and telling other people about it is just as helpful. So that is
Yeah,
totally appreciated.
even if you can sort of, repost stuff or just get other people involved, or, if you know someone else is a fan of, Hancock or Steptoe,
And if one
not...
of your listeners is one of these kind of super massive comedians and wants to quietly talk to us about it without anyone knowing, we'll do that. It's fine. We want nothing more than, I mean, having modern comedians look at it would be fantastic as well. And as you said, the families and the rights owners are really, really engaged, and I'm sure would be open to all sorts of conversations. I can't speak for them. I can't say that. You'll need to talk to them. But there's scope for all sorts.
We've covered everything. That's definitely everything on the list we put together, but we knew we'd, be adding things in, and it's just been a real joy. And thank you so much, Gary, for giving up your evening to talk to us. And if we can help, promote this even more, then fantastic. But yeah, we look forward to coming up and diving in. Really, yeah.
Do it. I mean, it's outrageous. I'm being paid for this. To do this.
Yeah,
You got it set.
It sounds a dream job.
Don't tell him. Don't tell him, for God's sake.
Don't tell him, Pike.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's actually called Innit Marvellous then.
That's it.
So Innit Marvellous and Gary Brannan. So Google it, YouTube it, have a look on Blue Sky, Twitter.
And if people are interested, there's also a talk I did at the York Festival of Ideas online now as well, which covers some of the Steptoe story, looking at how the American version came together. And for those of you that do like your classic British comedy, with the marvelous, brilliant Richard Usher, the actor Richard Usher, we resurrected a lost Goon Show sketch written by Galton and Simpson.
Wow.
Nice.
Lost for 75 years.
That's amazing.
And we redid it, and he did all the voices and the sounds, and it was just a real pinch me moment. That
Definitely, we'll have to go and have a look at that site.
Great stuff.
But no, thanks, Gary. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
We'll definitely see you in person sometime soon. Probably more towards the summer, when the kids are off school, I bet. But,
let's do it. That'd be great.
Excellent. I'll plan the road trip.
Hey.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks very much. Take care.
Hi, this is Susanna Corbett. Thanks for downloading Step Pod and Son.